Hey friends, my name is Abel, and are any of you gamers like me? And if you are, boy, do I have a video for you, if you'll let me cook, of course. Sometimes I'm scrolling the internet and I find those comments saying, oh, I only listen to music from video games. And there's nothing really wrong with that. I, like many of you, have a bunch of video game songs and soundtracks that I hold very close to my heart. But as a fan of music in general, I really want a bunch of people to be listening to music from all sorts of places, so I decided to make this video. These are 6 albums that every gamer should listen to. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's go! Starting off with the 2021 album called Nurture by the American electronic music producer Porter Robinson. This is probably the most uplifting and rejuvenating album I'll be talking about in this video. So 7 years after his previous album, Porter returns with an album that just feels like spring. There's nothing unwelcoming about the sounds and timbres on this album. There are some lovely synth and piano passages, some expressive singing as well despite the digitization at play here. There are plenty of soaring vocal performances all across this album, accompanied with inspiring, heartfelt, romantic, and personal lyricism, for example, Mother. And while there are songs like Dulcite and Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do that have less of a vocal presence, the message is still very clear. Sometimes when I listen to this album, I just feel like I'm in a school in a JRPG. There are songs like Musician where I could just picture myself joyously dancing to, alone or with friends. And this isn't a simple EDM anthem with build-ups and drops, there's a strong emotional center to the music here. In an interview with NME, Porter says he sees Nurture as finding the beauty in everyday and reality as it is. That's why the tagline of the album is everything we need is already here, unquote. And I think songs like Look at the Sky, Musician, Mother, and Wind Tempos are wonderful songs to show you what he means. Links in the description below. Next we have the 2018 debut album from HARU Nemuri, a Japanese singer and songwriter. Harutosyura is a bit difficult to categorize, but I would say it's a mixture of J-pop, noise rock, noise pop, and hip-hop as well. It's the only non-English album I have on this list. If you play a ton of JRPGs or listen to the music, the language barrier shouldn't hit as hard. Though I wouldn't say this album sounds like a soundtrack to any film or video game. The chord progressions and melodies on this album may appeal to you, but you'll still be a little bit out of your comfort zone, which is what I want. Haru's vocals border on rapping. It's quite jittery and chaotically performed at times as well, sometimes even resorting to very loud screaming. I wouldn't say this album is necessarily danceable, but the music is still catchy, even with the vibrant yet blistering guitar tones on this thing. You know, the more I listen to this, I just feel like my senses are all being dialed up, and the world around me is just falling into the sky. It's just the mesmerizing and searing textures all over this thing that are just so much fun. From an interview with Alexa Terry, we get the following, quote, I ask Haru what she ultimately tries to convey through her music, to which she replies, that's hard to explain. As you're living, there could be an ideological subset you choose or do, and extreme emotions such as anger can come into your heart. It can be hard to digest and you can't properly express it. It's okay if the language prevents you from fully enjoying the music, but I'm confident that Haru's emotions will still translate through. And I recommend listening to the songs Narashite, Cry Out, Yume wo miyou, Let's Dream, and The Lost Planet. Links in the description below. The third album is Run the Jewels 3 by Run the Jewels. This is the 2016 album from hardcore hip-hop duo Run the Jewels, consisting of Killer Mike and LP, who also does the production. Now many fans would disagree, but I think this is their best album and the best album to start their music with. The feel of Run the Jewels is actually quite simple. We have killer, somewhat unorthodox production, confident and hilarious rapping, and just a brotherly connection between LP and Killer Mike. And this is despite the duo having very different come-ups in the world of hip-hop and very different musical styles prior to coming together. This album isn't just, oh, one of them raps and then a chorus comes in and then the other one raps. No, actually, Songs like Legend Has It and Call Tikachong, where they just bounce off incredibly well. Chemistry is really something to behold, and there's just so much energy and aggression, like with songs Panther Like a Panther or Talk to Me. But we also have songs like the intro Down and Thursday in the Danger Room, where it's just so much more heartfelt and personal. I think the duo strikes a good balance of not being too simple with their rapping, but also not being too esoteric. If you're not already a hip hop or rap fan, that's perfectly cool, but I don't know if this album's gonna change your mind. However, if you go into this with the curiosity of seeing two best friends rapping incredibly passionately over some sick production, give this thing a shot. In an interview with The Guardian, LP says he basically thinks of this album like the point in the Rocky movie where it's just a training montage where they're just catching the chicken. And if you want to feel what that energy is like, I highly recommend listening to Legend Has It, 2100, Talk to Me, and Thieves to get started. Links in the description below. The fourth album will be Yeast by Joanna Newsom, released in 2006. Note, this has nothing to do with the video game series titled Yeast. Think about the Priscilla song from Witcher 3, at least its captivating vocal approach and the fantastical and folklorian context. Joanna is a fantastic harpist, and her singing voice isn't overpowering. It's kind of like a fairy tale storybook being read to a group of children. The music really sounds exactly like the album cover. The harp is really the star of the show, and we have 5 very long songs here, making this the most inaccessible album in this video. Given the style of intimacy, the world building, the imagery, and the symbolism in the music, there really is an immersion you can get lost in. And if we treat this album like a book, each song is its own wondrous story. That being said, you don't need to know a bunch of characters, locations, or just names in general to follow along with the stories here, and I think Joanna's voice is clear enough to which you don't really even need to read along with lyrics. Sawdust and Diamonds is a tale of grief with the most minimal instrumental assembly here. Monkey and Bear is essentially an origin story of the Great Bear constellation, Ursa Major, and the opening track, Emily, is a song about Newsom's sister, an astrophysicist. The poetry and storytelling is just immaculate and just flows incredibly well throughout the album. In an interview with Rob Young, he asks if the songs are a retreat or a way of confronting the world. To which Joanna responds, quote, "I don't feel it's a retreat from this world. I feel it's maybe an invocation of some larger ideas that I've been scared to touch in conversation or in previous songs or whatnot, and those ideas are very much of this world. I don't feel like I'm writing for a time that hasn't existed yet, or that has existed previously, or anything like that." The opening song, Emily, is a great place to start because I think it balances the personal and otherworldly side of Joanna's artistry very well. Linked in the description below. I'd love to shout out the 1984 album Powerslave by UK heavy metal band Iron Maiden. Of course I was going to talk about a metal album, let's go! If you're not into metal, I think an album like this is a great place to start. Music is colorful, theatric, filled with melodies, and nerdy in the best way. Thanks to the very clear production, every instrument can be separated, everything is easy to decipher, and you can follow along with the lead singer Bruce Dickinson's vocals super easily. He really has a commanding voice and is a fiery storyteller. Now, based on this cover, you may be getting the impression, oh, this album is about someone who travels to magical evil pyramid, and that each song weaves into the other for this larger narrative about this pyramid adventure. But you would be wrong. Because actually each song tells a very different story unrelated to spooky pyramids with faces. With the exception of the title track, which is about a pharaoh about to die, a slave to the power of death, if you will. Aces High is a song about aerial battles in World War II, and the guitar solos really just make me feel like I'm doing barrel rolls all over the place. The Duelist is about sword fighting, taking influence from the 1977 film by Ridley Scott. From a Kerrang interview, bassist Steve Harris says, quote, "It's okay to write simple pop songs, there's nothing wrong with that, but if the kids went out and checked into Coleridge just because I wrote a song about it, then that's really something." And if you want to hear creative stories like that, start off with Aces High, 2 Minutes to Midnight, and Flash of the Blade. Links in the description below. The final album I'll be shouting out in this video is Hot Rats by Frank Zappa. I think from all the artists in this video, Frank Zappa's history and musical journey is probably the most complicated and well documented. So all I'm gonna say for now is that Zappa was a songwriter and guitarist who just loved making music with a strong comedic edge from the 1960s to the 1990s. Hot Rats is often celebrated as not only his best solo work, but the best album he's ever worked on. Besides the second song, Willie the Pimp, the rest of the album is entirely instrumental jazz rock. You have guitars, strings, pianos, organs, flutes, clarinets, saxophone, drums, and a bunch of other percussion. Zappa delivers some excellent guitar solos all over this album, and he also does a great job making sure every single instrument and musician he worked with had a place to shine. You know, there are songs with bombastic band chemistry like Gumbo Variations and Son of Mr. Green Jeans, and there are more finely tuned and meticulous songs like the very first one, Peaches on Regalia. Even though this album came out in 1969, the production here is just crazy. Like, the overdubs and multi-tracking that Zappa and his engineers employed just make everything sound otherworldly, and it just sounds even crazier on the 1987 remix. Much like Nurture by Porter Robinson, which was the first album I mentioned in this video, this record just does an amazing job of enveloping you. Zappa even described this project as a, quote, movie for your ears, but I'm sure the scenes will vary between you. For example, at least for me, it feels like I'm in a bright pink Candyland, and there's rainbows everywhere, there's bouncy clouds, there's anthropomorphic animals wearing wacky clothes, just goofing around, occasionally doing morally questionable and illegal activities. But who knows, maybe for you guys it'll be something else. Of the 6 songs on this album, I highly recommend checking out Peaches and Regalia and Son of Mr. Green Jeans, as they showcase the best of Zappa's arranging, guitar work, ambition and sound play, and improvisational skills. And just like every other song I recommended, all the links are in the description below. And that's the end of the video. Thank you so much guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe as usual. Let me know how you felt about the gameplay in the background. I wanted to try a different video format. I tried to avoid placing super famous albums here like Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa or Nevermind by Nirvana. I hope you enjoy these albums. I really tried finding a balance of being accessible but also being a little bit out of the comfort zone of what you might typically expect if you mainly listen to music from video games only. My name is Abel, thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.